Welcome to the SpicyIP podcast, the summer school edition. Today, we have with us Mr. Ashwani. Welcome, sir. He is the partner at ALG Law Office, leading the firm's patent, design, and IP litigation. Sir, with a background of science, having moved from engineering into law, how has that journey helped you into the lawyer you are today? And how has the background of science helped you in the work you do today?
So, I remember I did my engineering in 2006.
Right.
And I did my B.Tech in biotechnology. And it wasn't like a clear choice at the end of my engineering that I had to do law. It just happened. So we had a subject in our last semester, which is called IP in biotechnology.
Right.
So we had like one of the professor who introduced that special subject, and that was the first introduction to IP which I had. And we had a book which is by, I think, Kenneth Sibley. It was a very interesting book, and I enjoyed reading that. And it was in the last semester I developed interest in IP. After my engineering, I joined a company. Actually, it's eValueServe, which are also into IP.
Right.
I did the job for a month, but I realized that it's not enough to do just engineering. This requires law. At the end of the day, it's practice of law. So I had options to do M.Tech from IIT Kharagpur, and at the same time, this new law school was launched. This Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law in IIT Kharagpur, and this was first of its own kind, because the prerequisite for doing law from that school was that you have to have a science degree, minimum of 4 years. That means engineering or an MSc. So I thought, like, why not? This is fantastic. Not many people at that point of time were interested. Even my parents had like their reservations, but I thought, like, let's do it. And I think that was a great decision. I still enjoy my practice of law, and that was time when I shifted from engineering to law. And certainly the science degree helps you in the part of patent prosecution, particularly, because you're dealing with the technical objections and from the examiners, and knowing the technology, knowing the technical jargon, sometimes they are helpful. But I believe that's limited to prosecution of patent applications. But law, when you do your law degree, it's not a patent law degree, it's a general law degree. So you can practice any law. I'm not limited by any particular subject matter. I can practice constitution law or criminal law or any other civil law. So I wanted to keep it open, and although I do enjoy my patents practice, but I do not limit it to that. I do a lot of litigation work. I do other subject matters in IP, like including trademarks and designs, and a little bit of copyrights. So it's important to have a clarity that at the end of the day, it's a law practice. Science helps you in a part of law practice, which is patent prosecution. But that's something which I had clarity from beginning. But that's I think, does that help your question?
Right. So do you think students who do not have a background in law still have a very good scope in patent prosecution as well?
Patent prosecution, there's a statutory limitation that you have to be a patent agent. You need to write an exam to be a patent agent, and to be able to prosecute and file and reply to the examination reports and appear before the examiners during the hearing. So this is a limitation under the Patents Act. I cleared my patent agent exam when I was in second year of my law school, but that's something which one needs to have, and for that exam you need to have a science degree.
Right.
So I understand why that is the case, because without a science degree, I'm not saying that it's not possible to do patent prosecution, but it's not easy because most of the technologies nowadays are very complex, and with someone who has not read science during their school, like maybe 11th and 12th, or during in their graduation, it may be a challenge. Again, I'll not comment on that. It's impossible, but it may be a challenge uh, to read, understand, and then to respond to the office actions from the patent office. But at the end of the day, as I said, it's a part of the law practice. We have a lot of so it may be limited to the prosecution part, but when it comes to the litigation, we have a lot of litigators, including senior counsels and judges, who may not have a science degree as of today, but they are dealing with these matters day in and day out.
Right.
So that's something which helps you, but it's not a limitation.
Right. And what advice or guidance would you have for students who want to get into IP litigation and prosecution? And
So it's been about 16 years I've been practicing and been part of getting on board younger attorneys over many years. And one thing which I always notice is that someone who has science degree and who has done law, particularly from like RGS school, IIT Kharagpur, or maybe other places, they are patent attorneys. They want to become patent attorneys, and in which they focus more on the patent and less on the attorney part. That's how I see it.
Right.
You need to approach it different. You need to focus on the attorney part. You need to be first become a good lawyer to be able to become a good patent lawyer. You cannot approach it from that you are very great at science and then you become a great patent lawyer. If you are only good at science and you're not focused on the law part of it, then maybe it's easier to do just maybe patent drafting and searching. So there are a lot of subject matters where there's not maybe not a great requirement of law.
Right.
But if you want to become a patent lawyer, then become first a good lawyer, and that requires focus on reading statutes, laws, and the Bail Act. That's most important thing for the lawyers to be easy with. That's something which I always advise to the younger practitioners to be easy with the law first, and then they can decide to practice patents.
Right. So we always see a gap for students who move from law schools into the profession, right? So ALG has this initiative of knowledge sharing, which I was also speaking to Sheja ma'am about. It seems to be a very different initiative, which is helping the students and benefiting them in a lot of ways. What is your approach to an initiative like that, and how did it come about, and how has it been helping you with the professionals who are coming out in ALG?
So it serves two purposes. Like one is knowledge sharing, which is generally good for younger attorneys to stay abreast with the developments and what's going on. But it was also to bridge the gap, because unfortunately the students which are graduating from the law schools and even from the best of the law schools, national law schools, they are not ready for the professional career. I mean, we see still a lot of gap, because what is taught in the law school is largely academic. I mean, sometimes they focus more on reading articles or judgments, again, without going to the basics being the law.
Right.
And when we ask them a question, and when something is posed, like client has a situation, then they go back, okay, such and such article says such and such thing, but what about the law? So that's something which is not being inculcated in the law schools, unfortunately. And I wish that I come from the same system, so it's not very different from what I see. I wish that I had I had a great 3 years in my law school. We were lucky, we were fortunate that we had most of our guest faculties coming in from different high courts and judges. So it was very different, but that knowledge sharing is largely to inculcate this habit of going back to the basics, the primary source of law, the secondary source of law, and the tertiary source of law. So do not jump, first go back to the primary source of law and then move on. So that's something which we want to have our younger attorneys practice, so that it's a part of the practice, how we approach things very differently.
Right. That's so great to hear, and also see law firms coming up with such initiatives, which also very well aligned with SpicyIP's ideas. And also ALG being one of our biggest sponsors and knowledge partners. So thank you so much for that. And it was a great conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's such a wonderful thing which SpicyIP is doing. I know SpicyIP since my law school days, and I was a fan of Shamnath. Unfortunately, didn't have too much time to spend with him after that, but I've been following SpicyIP, one of the best content being generated in the IP field. And now after so many years, when I see such initiatives being taken up by SpicyIP, it was a no-brainer that we wanted to be a part of it. And I wish that this goes on for many, many years. We continue this tradition. And I'm aghast that, like, why didn't anyone think of this before, and why didn't it start before? But better late than never. And I totally enjoyed being a part of this summer school program. And I wish that, I hope that we continue our association with SpicyIP. And thank you for the invitation, and I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great having you, and SpicyIP is also very grateful for ALG and for everything that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.